So hello everyone and welcome to episode 24 of the Deercast. Today we've got a slightly different guest for you in that we have Karl Waktare, who for 29 years was the managing director of GMK. For those of you who don't know who GMK are, you need to stop living in a box. They are the ones who provide us with all the lovely Seiko, Tikka, Beretta guns, as well as a few other brands, which I'm sure Karl will remind us of in a second. I think Steiner and Burris optics, Federal ammunition, CCI primers, etc., etc. Karl brings with him a wealth of experience of guns, optics, and ammunition, and hopefully in this episode we're going to kind of delve into that side of the kind of stalking world in terms of what are the best performing calibers from a sale point of view, what Karl has found from his time in terms of selling guns, etc. So without any further ado, welcome to the podcast, Karl.
Thank you. It's great to be on it. I've been listening to several episodes recently, and you do a great job. So
thank you very much.
In terms of myself, yeah, as you rightly pointed out, GMK was a family firm, and then in 2013, Beretta bought a majority stake of 60% of the business. So we've sort of been part of the Beretta group, which, as you pointed out, includes Seiko, Tikka, Beretta, Benelli, and more recently, of course, they bought the Amatec brands as well. So really, the business started off as, when I joined it, it was really all about shotguns, game and clay shooting of, in particular Beretta. But over the years, we watched rifle sales grow, and it became an increasingly important part of the business. And so, yeah, it's I sort of know lots of bits about lots of parts of the rifle and stalking business, but I'm not an expert like some of your guests that you've had on here in terms of their listening to the previous guy talking about the copper and so on. I've seen it from the sort of wholesale importer perspective, and our customers were first and foremost the retail outlets. So we're selling to them, and yeah.
And so you say you've seen rifle sales increase over the years. So as well as potentially sort of increasing, how else has the trade for sort of rifles, optics, ammunition sort of changed in your 29-year stint, or has it not changed? Are we very boring?
No. I mean, the UK is a relatively conservative market. We're a bolt action market. We obviously we shoot at stationary game as opposed to anything. We don't really shoot anything running, do we? So hence the straight pulls are not as popular over here. But in terms of how it's changed, I mean, the obviously moderators have made a massive difference over the years. They've transformed the shooting experience, and we GMK sold Stallon, which were a very successful moderator. I think from a shop's perspective, they either would specialize in rifles, and where GMK has got maybe 250 customers that are above a sort of minimum turnover, we'd find that maybe all the turnover on rifle products is done in about 50 dealers. And shotguns, people can come in, they can make the transaction there and then. There's a good trade in secondhand, and of course, as you know, the licensing procedure for rifles is very different. So it takes a lot more time, and the shops have to really know what they're talking about, because rifle shooters are, they're I don't want to say nerdy, but they are technical, shall we say. I remember in the early days of the internet, the rifle guys were all over it, much more quickly than shotgun people. So it's and yeah, I mean, the whole process, a shotgun, it's sold there and then. a rifle, you know, that they often want optics with it. They often want mounts and advice on ammunition, and then of course if they get even further into it, there's reloading, there's you know, now night vision and thermal and so on, and it's yeah, it's a the UK is quite different from most of Europe because you know, we're predominantly in over and under shotgun market, whereas they've got a lot more rifle shooting, and the semi-auto shotgun is much more popular on the continent than the over and under. So but you know, the French and the Germans and the Spanish, they've all got bore, you know, and they're a huge part of the market. And even up in Sweden in particular, you know, their market has transformed over the last sort of 10 years with as bore has moved up the country. You know, it's created a whole new business for them with a you know, different caliber than they used to use on the moose and the roe and the fallow that they have. And so yeah, we're a, you know, our deer population has been growing, and obviously to run a pheasant shoot, you need to keep on top of your foxes. So it's we're quite different in that respect, you know, in our calibers and our use of rifles.
So someone once said to me, and I can't remember who this was, and you'll have to tell me if this is true or not, that we differ from the Europeans in that we, as individuals, spend more money on our shotguns than we do our rifles, whereas the Europeans are perhaps the other way around in that they spend more money on their rifles than they do their shotguns. Is that
Yes.
Is that
yeah,
true?
that is correct. Yeah, I mean, based on my experience, you know, and I put it down to this fact that when you're shooting at a driven shoot, there's 8 or 9 of you in the line, aren't there? There's a lot of people who maybe you're finding neutral topics of conversation, and like one of them is guns, you know, and you've got the opportunity there to show off your nice gun, you know, your nice engraving, your nice wood, whereas in here you have a nice rifle and you've got no one there's only you who sees it really, because mostly it's solitary, isn't it? Whereas on the continent,
sorry, go on. You're going to say in Germany there's this sort of culture of hunting in a group, and therefore you can marvel at each other's special engraving and things like that.
Exactly, you know, so their shotgun shooting is probably a bit of duck shooting, which is solitary and maybe a bit of walked up, whereas the communal stuff, the boar hunts in France and Germany and so on, then you've got the opportunity to show off your top end blazer, or your, you know, they will buy guns with nice wood, rifles with nice wood, whereas here, you know, and that's over time. Actually, that's something we saw at GMK, that I mean, probably 10% of rifles are wooden now. You know, it's all about durability and, you know, comb razors and adjustability. You know, but in general, a rifle is a working tool here, isn't it? So whereas on the continent, it's something you can show off.
And have you seen that change at all over time? You know, in the sort of growth of popularity of rifles in this country, you know, and the sort of the increase in popularity of things like kit plough rifles. We can't, on this podcast, we can't actually go an episode without talking about kit plough. So I thought I'll get it out of the way now.
I get all the heat for this, and I own a kit plough. I love it to pieces, I'll admit that, but I never bring it up, and someone else always does, and I always get the blame for it. So I just like that noted by everyone. I didn't bring it up.
Whatever. But you know, they've sort of exploded in popularity with people now looking at getting nice sort of grade 5 and 6 walnut. You know, you go into the gun shops and you see, you know, Sauer rifles and Blaser rifles with very, you know, swanky looking sort of stocks. Have you seen that change, you know, away from it being just a sort of more of a management tool?
I mean, we've never had any kit. I mean, you're talking break barrel.
Yes. In terms of sort of single shots.
Yeah. I've heard you talk about them on other podcasts. I've never come across them, to be honest. I mean, none of our brands do them, so I wouldn't. I think maybe the reason you're seeing them in the shops is because no one's buying them. Why would you want one of those? I don't understand it. It's we've sold the odd, the Beretta Gallery was part of our group as well, and we got the odd express rifle in, and they're really slow to move as well. It's the French, they still sell a bit of express rifles because I think it's a traditional thing, and they're on the bore, aren't they? So I'm not your man to talk about that particular type of rifle.
No. Well, another question I had about the sort of UK market is, obviously, over your 30 almost years of being involved in the gun trade, there's presumably been a lot of change in the sort of legislation in terms of actually importing rifles to the UK. Have you seen that become a lot more sort of difficult over that time period? Obviously, with sort of Brexit, and I know in the sort of late 90s there was a lot of change in firearms legislation with handguns being outlawed and all of that sort of thing. Have you seen any sort of increase in challenges to your to GMK's business over that period, or?
Well, I would say the Dunblane change in legislation actually helped the rifle business, because actually I think it was the Hungerford made it so that everyone had to have a cabinet, and then once you've got a cabinet, you've sort of got the legalities almost to have a firearms certificate as well. So, and then I think when all these guys who were handgunners in the 90s who had to stop doing that, they were compensated, and they sat there for a while, I think, and then they came around and they thought, well, this is my hobby, this is my community, and they invested, I think, in rifles, and to an extent some of them shotguns as well. I remember the fairs in the shows in the 90s. There were guys saying, I'm looking to get into my rifle shooting or my shotgun shooting because I can't do the handgunning anymore. So I would say it had a positive impact. In terms of the Brexit and importing, guns are always a bit of they're not a standard good to import, and transport is also difficult, but shotguns and rifles are more or less the same, really. And when Brexit happened, it was a nightmare for 3 months. We basically didn't really get a shipment, but once they overcame the paperwork, it started to flow again. And Seiko have always been very efficient, and they're on top of their paperwork, and so really once that hurdle was overcome, it wasn't really a problem. So
was the Beretta, I forget the acronym for it, but the straight pull one, did that come in whilst you were, did that come in under your reign, as it were? Did it?
Yes. Yeah.
And I was sort of anticipating that to be a really popular rifle, because I would have thought lots of people wanted a straight pull but didn't necessarily want to sort of pay blazer money, and Beretta is a sort of really good household name when it comes to guns. So I thought that would have been an absolute storm. Has it proved to be, or is it too early to tell?
Well, Beretta took their time about developing it, and as they do, they wanted to get it absolutely right, and they also wanted to reach, as you point out, that key price point of sort of sub £2,000, and so it was finally launched during the end of somewhere during COVID, when firearms demand had gone crazy, particularly in the US, but also in Europe. People had they were sat at home and they had a lot of time on their hands, and they shooting was able to commence again quite quickly. So the problem with the BRX for the UK was that when it was launched, I think it only came in 308 and 3006. We didn't have the crucial 243, and there wasn't a Creedmoor. So we had a lot of interest in it, but unfortunately, I think we started to get 243 last year. But I know in France and Germany it absolutely flew. They for them it was, as you pointed out, the Beretta brand name is really strong, and you could put a, I know shops were saying, for the same price as it's, as a blazer, you could put, moderator, a scope, and a mount on it, and the blazer's a very different product and it's a very top end product. But it was, yeah, I mean, and Beretta couldn't keep up with demand for that. Yeah, they were launching a new product, and it went crazy in Europe and Scandinavia as well. In Sweden in particular, I know they just couldn't get enough of them. And launching a new product is always a challenge for a factory, because you don't go from 0 to 200 rifles a day. It takes you time, and then you've got to train the staff, and then as you start to finally manufacture, you'll find issues along the way in production and so on. So yeah, it's always, and it was for Beretta as well. It was their first hunting rifle for a very long time, so they had to overcome that as well. And then sometimes you get bottlenecks in components, and around COVID there was a lot of that. If you're missing a certain component, often they won't start the production, because there's no point. You can't sit there with 1,000 half-made guns. The factories just aren't set up like that. So that they'll often make what they've got all the parts for. So yeah, but overall the BRX has been, it was, if we'd had the full range of calibers from day one, we would have done really well. But unfortunately, by the time we got the calibers, the market was going softer. 2023 was a much tougher year in terms of we sort of brought forward a lot of COVID, sort of put a massive sort of boost on everything. People had time, they had money, and they sort of got this feeling into their heads a little bit that life's too short. I'm gonna, I want this and I want it now, sort of thing. And you saw that with cars and watches and everything. So and then obviously the war in Ukraine happened as well, and energy costs went crazy, and plus we had the licensing issue that again was really a result of COVID. Police officers in the firearms department being dragged into COVID duties, and then you've got a lack of trained staff to pick up. So it fills a niche really, really well for that, as you say, affordable straight pull. Although linear, I can't remember what we're inline. It's not. We're not supposed to call it straight pull. It's a
Okay.
linear loading or something like that.
And what would be GMK's sort of best-selling rifle, if you like? Would it be a sort of standard Tikka, or do you sell more Tikkas than Seikos, or what are your top sellers?
Yeah, I mean, I think the T3 Lite is the sort of silver pigeon of rifles for us. Yeah, Tikka significantly. I think it's about, well, Seiko's gone through this transformation from the 85 to the 90. So for a period they weren't producing any 85. So it's about 2 or 3 to 1 in favor of Tikka. It's a much more affordable rifle, and the range is now really big for it as well. They've massively increased the model variety, and so yeah. Again, going back to dealing with shops, supply is crucial for them, really, because they need they want to be able to phone GMK up and say, I've got a customer, he's looking for a 6.5 Creedmoor in a particular specification. Have you got it? And if you've got it, you can make the sale. They'll often try and push the customer towards what they can get. So you don't want to have too much for the customer to think about either. You want to say, look, trust this brand, I can get it. The backup service is good, and that's where Tikka really scores. I think Tikka takes a big percentage of the UK rifle market.
And would in my mind, I always thought that people, if they were going to buy a deer caliber or bigger caliber rifle, they're probably more inclined to opt for a Seiko. And if they were opting for a smaller caliber, they might opt for a Tikka. Is that true, or is that complete bogus?
No, that is, we definitely see that Seikos are the proportion of bigger calibers is much higher, because if there is an occasion where you're going to show off a rifle, it's a Seiko, isn't it? And I think everyone, if they've got the money, will, between the two, will pick a Seiko. It's just more refined. It's nicer in lots of little ways. It's like any product, isn't it? Really, that if you go from a Skoda to an Audi, they're a lot of the same components, but there's something about the way they feel or drive, in the case of the cars, that the doors shut more nicely, and there's just something about them, isn't there? And Seiko still obviously keep, they won't put any plastic in the magazine or any component, whereas the Tikka is solid and reliable, but it's much more built to a price.
So you've mentioned calibers a couple of times, which I'm sure is, and you've mentioned the swear word of 6.5 Creedmoor, which everyone seems to either absolutely love or absolutely hate. Is that something that sort of took you by storm? Because it certainly felt, from my point of view as a kind of ordinary layperson on the street, that I'd never heard of the 6.5 Creedmoor, and then all of a sudden everyone wanted one. Or for you in the trade, was it something that had been bubbling away for years and you kind of had seen it coming?
Well, no, it's the Americans are the ones, really, aren't they, who are constantly looking for new calibers and new bullets and new things. And we sort of watch from over here, and someone says, oh, there's a new caliber such and such, and to be honest, most of them just die a death, because you for a caliber to be successful, the manufacturers have got to start making the rifles, and the ammunition manufacturers have got to start making the affordable ammunition. So so most of them just don't really get any traction. But Creedmoor, it started slow and gradually really did do extremely well, yeah, I was going to ask you guys, just out of curiosity, if you had to think of the top 5 calibers in the UK, what give me the long list, and give me the top 5. You don't have to put them in order, and then I'll ask you to.
Are we including a 2.2 rimfire in this, or are we just
no, excluding rimfire?
Okay,
excluding rimfires.
I'm going to go for 308. That's one of them. I don't know if that'd be number 1. I think it would definitely be in.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll let you know if they're in the top 5, and yes, basically 308 is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Go on, Harry.
243.
Yeah. That's.
Yeah. 6.5 Creedmoor, I'm guessing, has got to be in there now.
I sort of led you into that one, haven't I?
Yeah. So that's 3 down. What would it?
223.
Yeah.
Yeah.
270, do you think?
I was going to say 250.
Oh, yeah.
For foxing.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah. No, you basically, you basically got them pretty much right there. You 270 creeps in a little bit sometimes, yeah. But so in terms of those, which do you think is most popular?
I think 243.
Yeah, I think 243.
It was always, but 223 is often the bestseller.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But of course, you as deer stalkers would probably not consider that as much. There's a lot of foxing goes on out there, so it's always 243 was.
What's the sort of difference between the? I mean, you might not have those stats there, but I mean, is a 223 twice as popular as, say, a 243 or a 308 or something, like from 1 to 5? Is there quite a big difference, or
no? 243 and 223 are neck and neck. really, and then the next lot are pretty much half of either of those two. So it's interesting. Like I'm just looking at the stats here now. In 2020, it was Creedmoor was third, and then in 2022 it was actually the second best selling caliber, and 243 was the one that suffered really, because I think it was the whole non-lead issue that people really became quite concerned about it, because if you, and you've got to remember, it's people buying a new rifle as well. So if there's a lot of 243s out there and people might already have one, it doesn't necessarily mean they're stopping using it, but if they're going to buy a new one, or they, a lot of guys look to come up with an excuse to buy a new product, and there's this brand new shiny caliber that they want to get their hands on. So but it seems to be here to stay, for sure. Although 243, I think later this year Seiko are bringing out an 80 grain 243 not in blade, in the non-lead. So they will get there eventually. But it is a challenge getting the enough weight into a bullet and keeping it accurate. And they're changing twist rates on the caliber for calibers as well. I think the 243, I think I'm right in saying it's gone from 1 in 10 to 1 in 8 now, and that's to help with non-lead.
To stabilize.
Are they doing that across all calibers or just the 243? As in,
they're doing it across a lot of calibers, as and when they've sort of got to get consensus around Europe and so on. But Europe is just as much into the whole copper, non-lead, whatever you want to. I don't like to use the word non-toxic, because but lead-free, shall we say?
Yeah, and again, I'd heard that lots of rifle manufacturers now are sort of basically, as default, everything will be threaded, rather than perhaps, and even at the beginning of kind of my deer stalking career, the standard rifle was a non-threaded rifle, and it was a kind of, I don't want to call it an optional extra, but you had to sort of specifically say, oh no, I would like it threaded. Whereas I'd heard that has almost kind of flipped on its head now.
Yeah, I mean, we at GMK, we would order from codes, and there's a code for a threaded one, and we would order everything with a threaded. There's, I don't know, I don't have the exact figures, but it's probably 98% of rifles that come with a thread now, or have a moderator on them. And the Scandinavians have been on it for a while as well. That's why I think a lot of the moderators come from Scandinavia, because they were early adopters, and they were able to use them. Germany is now doing really well with it, but for a long time you couldn't have sound moderators on the rifles. I'm not sure how much there is in France, and I know Italy you can't have a sound moderator for hunting still. Now I was told that's because to avoid poaching, because if a guy's out there shooting with a moderator, he won't be heard. But I mean, the Italians are often quite slow to change their laws in lots of ways.
Yeah, and in terms of calibers, and presumably we're completely different to Europe, in the sense that they would be going for much larger kind of 30 caliber bullets in majority, I'd have thought. And on the continent, are they using much 223, 243?
Not 243, no. I mean, the UK, the only place that does a bit of it is the US, but then they do so much of everything. But no, 243 is a nothing caliber in most of Europe, as far as I understand. But you're absolutely right. The 3006 is the 308s. That's very much, 308 is the default caliber, I think, in most of Europe. It's cheap ammunition, good range of bullets, and if you're you know, you've got to remember that a big stag or a big boar, you know, that you need a big bullet to stop it.
So I'd always presumed that the 243 was used on the continent, sort of similar to how it was here in terms of it would be a kind of small deer type rifle. But if it's not, I mean, is the writing on the wall for the 243, do you think, in terms of with this move to non-lead, if we're the only country who really probably needs non-lead 243 ammunition, is that inevitable for it, or?
No, I don't think so. I think I say that I don't see the figures. I've been to sales meetings, obviously, when they're talking about a new product, you know, we're always sticking our hand up and saying, when's it coming in 243 sort of thing. And the UK is a decent market for rifles, and so no, I think the 243, and as I said, I think they'll get better at making heavier bullets in copper for 243. And I think the thing with copper, we're at the very early stages, I think, with it. You know, there's a lot of work to go into it and a lot of field experience to be learned, and that will help these people. You know, at the moment, the Americans our experience of dealing with federal, you know, was that particularly where they've been flat out producing during the COVID times, you know, and they had a massive shortage of ammunition out there, that it sort of makes sense. They're not going to divert a lot of time and energy to producing copper ammunition for Europe. You know, it just doesn't make sense. But once, I think there are certain states, I think California is lead free, but it's not a massive hunting state. So, but I think it's slowly coming over there as well, you know.
So you just said the UK is a good market for rifles. So a question popped into my mind. Have you in your time seen either Seiko, Tikka, Beretta, or whoever it might be sort of produce a rifle that was specifically aimed at the UK market rather than perhaps anywhere else? Has anyone ever gone, oh, I think this is what the UK market really wants, let's make it? Or is everything sort of made slightly generically enough that it could probably suit any market?
Yeah, I think that they're always made for multi-market use. You know, that you've got to remember, I think America, for most of the Beretta group, is over half the rifle sales. So and the other big countries are Canada and Australia. So it wouldn't make any sense just to do something in particular for the UK. I mean, I don't know really what the UK would want. I mean, I think they pretty much get it. You know, it's thin lights in Seiko or stainless synthetic is basically the formula that the average UK stalker wants.
Yeah, I suppose we've got such a broad range of terrains and species, and
yeah,
it would be hard to make it would be impossible to make a rifle that is aimed at UK as a market, I suppose, wouldn't it? I mean, you could maybe make a sort of Scottish deer rifle or something like that.
Highland Stalker.
Yeah, but then your market is probably not going to justify retooling a whole factory to be making new bits for it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think Rigby did that, didn't they? With they very much marketed it as a Scottish traditional rifle, but I think the days of people spending a month up there stalking stags, there's not many people have got the time or the money to do that anymore.
Not with a Rigby rifle, anyway. I mean,
no,
you can get away with pretty much anything these days. Anything modern, anyway, seems to do the trick. So yeah, that's a good point. One question I did have about more the sort of mechanics of how the business side of being an importer works. Talk me through how does it actually work? If a gun shop brings you up, say, and says, I want 30, Tikka T3s, do you then have to ring up Tikka and order them in, or do you have a stockpile, if you like, that you can draw from, or do you try and limit your warehouse full of guns, or how does it sort of work?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's obvious to me, but obviously I can see from to everyone else if you're not doing it. No, I mean the process works. We have to in the autumn we would have to put a budget together for the following year, which when you've got a trend of 5-6 years, it's not you forecast the end of the year and then you take that figure and then Seiko work on it's a 3-month lead time basically. So based on our forecast, they would give GMK an allocation of a certain number of rifles for every month, and then 3 months ahead of that particular month, they would say, give us your split of models. I mean, it's quite incredible that they can do that, by model, by caliber, and okay, they're a little bit late sometimes, but in general they were very very reliable. So. And there's not so much seasonality with rifles in the UK. People are buying them, and it's not like the Robux bringing in a massive boost. I think it's probably more determined by when people get their licenses, really. And so in terms of a gun shop, no, we will obviously be trying to have rifles that we're never out of stock of, the key calibers and the key models, and then other one. I mean, it is a challenge for sure. When you're selling 2 or 3 of a SKU, a sort of a particular caliber model, then you try and keep one in stock at all times. But if that goes, you can be out of it for 3-4 months. And but yes, I mean, I wish we did get orders from shops saying I'll have 30 rifles on. It's
yeah, no,
4 or 5 is a good order.
Yeah,
and it won't all be of one model either. It'll be
no, that's quite difficult, isn't it? And you mentioned sort of licensing, and have you found has that presented any problems? Like, I know it does for gun shops around us. Certainly, we're in Thames Valley here. I presume that gets passed on to you as a distributor as well. Those sort of issues.
Oh yeah, it is. What has been happening quite a lot is that shops have, when someone comes in and they see a rifle they want, the shop will maybe order it, and then they'll pay a deposit on it to the shop, and then the shop will put it aside for them, and then it's just that sale is not completed until they finally get their variation or their license through. So I know several shops have been saying they're sitting on 40-50 rifles, which is a nightmare. But they will generally take the rifle from us at GMK, or they would do to make sure that they've got the rifle for the guy when the license comes through. But yeah, it is so as such, GMK would not necessarily suffer the lack of a sale, but ultimately, if the whole system's slow, we are, and the shop is going to perhaps be reluctant to invest in more stock when they've got a cupboard upstairs full of rifles. It affects their cash flow and so on. So yes, I mean that is the beauty of shotguns. That a guy on a whim can go in and trade in, buy a new one, and things like the competition clay market is very quick to react to new models. Those guys, they're very communal. When they see, like, when we had the 694 launched, that went through the roof very, very quickly. Everyone wanted one, and in the belief that they were going to shoot much better, which of course they did. But whereas rifles, no. I mean, you can. I say that the new oh God, the S20, that was, that had a really strong launch, but it was launched at the start of COVID as well, so it was a particular situation. But you think about it, if you see a new rifle and it's very hard unless you go in and trade in a one of the same caliber to actually make that switch quickly. It involves a bit of time.
And weird question for you. In your 29 years at GMK, have you had any really bizarre requests? Like, has a customer ever ordered a rifle and, I don't know, they want their face engraved in the side of it or something, and you guys have had to try and help do that, or have you been very kind of, the product is what the product is?
Trying to think. Not. You see, on the rifles, there isn't really. There were certain rifles we would say you know you've got to special order it, a particular bizarre caliber or something like that. Because and then they, depending on how busy they are, 3 to 6 months. So I'm trying to think. I mean, we've had some bizarre engraving requests on shotguns, and girlfriends and girlfriends and wives, shall we say, and dogs and all that kind of stuff, which it's far easier if people keep to the regular engravings, really, because they and from a resale point of view as well, selling a picture of your girlfriend on the side of your gun or your dog is not something that anyone else necessarily wants, is it? Trying to think. No, I couldn't really say that that there's anything that really springs to mind that that we've been asked for on the rifle side.
And again, another really unfair question, and I promise we'll let you go in a bit, because I feel like we've absolutely grilled you here, Karl. Again, 29 years in the industry, you'll have seen a huge amount. Do you have any sort of idea or premonitions as to where it's going, what the next thing might be, what the next consumers might want?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question. I think moderators have made a massive difference to the rifle shooting experience. I was over in Ireland recently, and they were talking about the for them the Viper Flex mounting. I mean, I think there's a lot of work to be done on. I think the bipods, maybe, because still the most common solution is a pretty old one, so, and a pretty clunky one. I'm slightly concerned a little bit by some of the technology, because this thermal and night vision is getting so good, and it's sort of taking putting the advantage too much in the favor of the shooter, I think, really. So have I got, I mean, you've still got to deliver that bullet through a barrel, haven't you? That's what and the reality is most deer are shot around sub 100 meters, aren't they? So I think the kit that is there, you've got triggers, they're already pretty good, aren't they? And lighter is not necessarily better all the time. You don't want it too light, do you? So I can't really. Carbon barrels, well, I'm slightly mystified by that. Saving yourself 100 grams and paying an extra £1,000 for it. When you then got to put a decent optics weigh a lot. You want decent mounts on there. And as I say, by the time you put a bipod on there as well and a moderator, well, is it? What have you saved yourself?
Yeah, I really like the idea of having more of a thought behind what happens once you buy the rifle. Because I mean, if you're marketing a stalking rifle, the first thing that someone's going to go out and do is either put a bipod on it, or so many people now will have the sort of Spartan or similar systems that they use for bipods, and that they make a very easy little adapter that you just put in. And so many people go out and buy a rifle and then go straight to the gun shop and say, can you fit this adapter or that, or what have you? And with so many people using quad sticks as well, there are so many rifles that there's one of my rifles that I shoot that's impossible to shoot off quad sticks because it moves so much in them. Having some more thought behind it, there's the rifle's sort of integration with other systems, I think is a really interesting idea.
Which comes back to Cat, because I've got a similar rifle in the sense that essentially it's the forend, in that it's so rounded, because both of the rifles we're thinking of are both German made rifles, and I suspect would have been made for driven style shooting, as in someone would have been doing it with two hands. So for us to take them into the UK market and immediately slap them on a pair of Viperflex where you've got a flat front base, and you're like, whoa, like this with it. It's it does just show that complete difference, doesn't it?
But no, I agree with you. I think that's where the opportunity is. And I have pointed that out to Seiko, that as you say, why not sell the full system and including the moderator? But I think the trouble is when you're flat out manufacturing a rifle, it's not that easy to sort of work on who do you get to do that bit of work? What do you take them off? Whereas which is why you get people who are specialists in it, and you see with moderators, it is actually quite an art form really, that you can do all the design you like, but then you've got a very high pressure explosion going on in that barrel, and you don't know how it's going to perform until you've until you actually test it in its fully manufactured form, and it needs to be as light as possible, and it needs to take as much sound out of it. But bipod in particular is but I guess maybe a lot of other countries perhaps don't use them when they're going back to Europe. You're thinking about driven bore and stuff, they haven't got them on bipods, and they do a lot of high seat stalking as well, again, where you don't really need it, do you?
No.
It's so yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, I think customs stocks have become people again. You've got adjustability in them now, and even people buying custom stocks for them. But the standard ones are pretty good as well, aren't they? So it's not everyone wants it, and it is an extra cost.
There's a couple of things I'd really like to see in the future of gun rifle making, I should say. The first being modularity, because I bought a Sauer rifle recently, and I'd previously been using had a Tikka T3, not the light one, the original one, and the modularity on the Tikka is obviously amazing because you can drop any stock into it and fiddle around with it and do the triggers and the bolts and merrily buy new bits for it and customize it to your liking. But the Blaser and the Sauers, try and put a bipod on a Sauer rifle without completely butchering the whole thing. It's absolutely either ridiculously expensive. You'll spend well over £500 or £600 to put even the ability to put a bipod on the rifle. It's just such a small thing that is so frustrating, And the other one that really grinds my gears is threads on rifle barrels. Why are there 7,000 different threads for rifles? Why can't all the manufacturers just get together and agree on one thread pattern? It's so infuriating when you have to get different bridges and adapters, and it's so maddening. And I don't. Is there any logic behind it? Is there any reason that we need 17,000 different thread pictures?
No, I'm not. I know there's possibly something with Americans want one form, and then someone will come up with something else. And but yeah, it is. I think Seiko Tikka are pretty standard, But going back to your, there's a couple of things that sprung to mind about, no one's quite managed to moderate the whole barrel or integrate that, and I'm not sure they ever will, because you don't want a situation where the moderator goes wrong and that's the whole barrel gone, do you? But one thing actually that would be a real that no one, I don't believe, has cracked is how to carry a rifle, over your shoulder. You've got some quite good backpacks, but they're not perfect, are they? And I was recently, as I said, I've been to Ireland carrying a rifle over my shoulder, and it's not comfortable ever, is it? It's sort of
no. And it's like I think it's on the S20. There's some small things that people have started doing to make that easier, like putting the sling swivel on the side so that you don't have the bolt digging into your back. I mean, that stuff like that, it seems so obvious.
Yeah.
I've
got to admit, I have really enjoyed watching you try to fit or engineer a solution to fitting a bipod onto your Sauer rifle. So I'm not going to complain about that one. It's provided me with like hours of entertainment of you at the stalking show pretty much every single year when you see something that you think might work, being like, hang on, could I use that to fit a bipod? And they're like, yeah, to a Sauer. Oh, no, that won't work on a Sauer. Honestly, hours of entertainment from my point of view.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly comment.
Yeah.
And they're so expensive as well.
You've just got a Tikka.
Oh, I know. I already have a Tikka, to be fair.
Karl, thank you very much for your time. This has been absolutely fascinating, and you've been an absolute hero for bearing with all of our very pestering questions into which caliber was most popular in the UK, etc., etc. I know you're a very busy man, so we won't hold you up any longer. So thank you very much for joining us, and I'm sure on behalf of our guests as well, thank you very much for imparting as much knowledge as you have. And again, on behalf of all the customers that have bought rifles and shotguns through GMK, thank you for the last 29 years and making it such a pleasant experience.
No, thank you, guys. It's been, yeah, as I say, my shotguns are my stronger area of knowledge, so I think you've basically got the whole lot now. I can that is what there's no part two to this. That is it. That's all I know.
Well, thank you, Karl, and thank you very much, and hopefully we'll catch all the listeners on the next one.
Brilliant. Thank you.